one of the hardest parts of running a franchise is having to admit to your fans, to your players, and to yourself that right now you're just not good enough to win. And after our week 9 matchup with the Dallas Cowboys, that told us everything that we needed to know. Now, I didn't include full highlights of this game because, well, it wasn't particularly close. Tony Romo ended up having a field day on my defense. And the Dallas Cowboys' no-name running backs ran wild. I didn't want to pull the plug on Michael Vick right after this game, but I knew if something didn't change soon, we'd have to go in a different direction. After the brutal loss to the Dallas Cowboys, we had a home game versus the Miami Dolphins that we ended up losing 33-25. Again, I really didn't want to pull the plug on Michael Vick. I wanted to stick with it. And the following week, we had another home game versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which we ended up losing to rookie quarterback Jameis Winston, and the score was only 13-10. So coming off the tough loss versus Dallas and then 2 inexcusable home losses, I just felt like it was time and we needed a change. And I decided to turn it over to Tim Tebow for a few reasons. Number one, we knew we'd get some energy in the fan base. And also, let's be honest, guys, with this team having this record at this point being 3-7, at this point, you would have to win out to potentially make it into the playoffs. I just didn't feel like that was something I could do with this current roster. I really did try my best and I waited as long as possible, but with 6 games remaining, Michael Vick ranked 31st in the NFL in passing yards and 30th in passer rating. He just wasn't good enough. It was time to hand the keys to Tim Tebow. And at this point, you have to wonder, was this going to be the last time we got to see Michael Vick suit up for the Eagles or suit up for anyone at all? So heading into our week 12 matchup with the Detroit Lions, we've got the quarterback change. Tim Tebow's in as the starter. He was actually able to pull out the victory and he played pretty well. We probably got that morale boost from bringing in the backup of change of scenery after a tough 3-game skid. We were able to beat the Lions 27-17. And Tim Tebow, I mean, he completed 18 of 25 pass attempts. That's 72% completion, 219 yards and a touchdown and no interceptions. So that was an incredible game and we wanted to see if he could carry that momentum down the stretch. So from this point on, me and the team decided it would be best to simulate the rest of the season and see how we do under Tim Tebow. Spoiler alert, it was not well. He did not keep the momentum. We actually did not win another game and ended up going 4-12 to end the season off. Now, before we talk about something very interesting in the playoffs, I wanted to talk about some of the NFL awards. Aaron Rodgers did win the MVP, but my rookie that I traded for, Bud Dupree, actually ended the year with 11 sacks, and so he was the defensive rookie of the year and runner-up for defensive player of the year in the NFC. So that was really cool, and that's actually it ended up resulting in a dev trade upgrade for him. So now he's a superstar X Factor that I have at the right end, which is a really big deal. Now, I want to get into this playoff scenario because it ended up being insane considering 2 things. Number one, the 2-1 seeds were the Dolphins and the Cardinals, but the Dolphins actually ran the table. They went 16-0. Now, the Cardinals, on the other hand, they were also a very good team and they made it into the Super Bowl. Now, we're watching the Super Bowl live and I realized looking at the Cardinals, they don't have their starting quarterback, Carson Palmer. They've got their 3rd string quarterback in Logan Thomas. You guys remember Logan Thomas is a quarterback turned tight end, but in this mod, it happened before, so he's still a quarterback. The Cardinals in both rounds of the playoffs actually lost their first and second quarterback. So they were going back and forth, and obviously, so the Cardinals also made it to the Super Bowl. So it's the Cardinals versus the undefeated Dolphins in the Super Bowl. And it looked like the Cardinals were actually going to take it. The Dolphins go all the way down the field to tie the game late. And these guys went for two to win the Super Bowl. Or I'm sorry, when they went up to score, they didn't tie it, but they obviously came in, with the extra point to tie it. And instead they go for two to win the Super Bowl. So it was an insane playoffs. It was a lot of fun watching that on stream. It was just crazy how that played out. I don't think I've ever seen a team go undefeated in Madden, especially a team that's like the Dolphins. So shout out to them. They won the Super Bowl, but now it's time for us to get into this off season. Again, we ended up 4-12. We're the second worst team, so we're gonna have this second pick in the draft. But you guys know we've got to get some free agents in here, and I'm definitely gonna be looking to capitalize on some of this draft capital before the draft, especially with a team that wants to trade up to get a quarterback, because I'm not taking Goff or Wentz, even though that's what the mock drafts have me doing. All right, so now that we're in the off season, I want to talk about the first tool that we ran, and it's called the Stats Matter tool. Let me read the description. So it says that this mod is a tool that makes stats relevant when it comes to progression and regression at the end of the season. It says every position is judged based on key statistical rankings, and the ranking requirements vary depending on overall. When it comes to regression, only starting quality players who have been in the league longer than 3+ years will be affected. It also has a dev trait progression and regression for O-linemen. So what this mod basically does is simple. It makes your stats matter when it comes to your player's progression. So for example, let's say you got a 96 overall defensive end, but he gets no sacks. Well, how would that player be viewed in the NFL? He was like, oh, well, he's not as good anymore. He's not performing as well. His overall would definitely come down. Say you go into the year like an idiot, like myself, with a 62 overall quarterback, but they actually end up playing really well. Obviously going to be looked at in a different light, and yes, their overall is going to go up. Now, I think that my favorite thing about this is it does require the player to be a 3-year starter or in the league longer than 3 years, because obviously we have certain rookies and things of that nature who aren't playing and things of that nature, who are sitting in situations and stuff like that. So obviously you don't want their ratings to be affected, but even so, like I think about some players like maybe a Trey Lance. Remember, Trey Lance, think about him, like his overall rating or how he would be perceived would definitely be lower today than it was when he was drafted, even though he has not played. So that's like my favorite touch about this tool. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the results from us running that tool this off season. And just by looking at it, it looks like the only two players that were impacted by me were Zach Ertz, the tight end, went from a 76 overall to a 79, and Bud Dupree, who went from a 77 to an 80. At this point in the offseason, it was time to run the cap casualty tool, or the clear cap space tool, I believe it's called. So what this tool basically does, it's built into the My Franchise tool. Basically, it'll go through and it'll cut or restructure for players that shouldn't be cut, any player that would be considered a cap casualty in real life scenarios. So it goes by position, age, dev trait, savings versus penalty, and of course overall rating, and takes into account obviously other players you'll have at that position. Now, you can run this tool for the user, or you can also just exclude the user from the results, because obviously me personally, I like to make those decisions myself. But this is a really cool thing that'll get more players into the free agent pool, because we did see that a lot lately in the NFL, guys getting cut just for cap space reasons. So at this point, the only thing left to do before free agency was to go and sign my own players. Now, I was going to let a lot of guys walk. I was not interested in 90% of them. We took care of that at the deadline. But the last guy that I did want to try to get taken care of was that center, David Molk. Now, it did definitely seem like he did not want to be here. I had previously made him an offer of 3 years, 13, I think it was 13.5 million. And in the offseason, I even upped it to 3 years, 15 million, but David did not budge. However, I still decided to go ahead and slap the franchise tag on David because he was a center. The franchise tag amount was only about $8 million, so a little bit more in the short term, but overall, you know, he's not going to get that long-term security that he may have been looking for. So maybe we can get something worked out next year, or by then maybe I will have found his replacement. So heading into free agency, we had a couple of holes to fill. Obviously, one of the biggest holes was quarterback. But when I looked at the free agent pool, it looked like the top quarterbacks, specifically fast quarterbacks, were not interested in joining the team. So that was automatically problematic, especially considering I did not want to address quarterback in this draft because I didn't love the players coming out. Now, with that being said, the very top inside linebacker, which we need a whole lot of linebacker and safety help, just defensive help all around, was very interested in the team. And that was one of the first offers that I decided to throw out there. It was linebacker Demario Davis, 90 overall, 27 years old, X Factor. Just thought he would be a great player, kind of anchor the center of this defense. The offer that we ended up throwing at him was for 4 years, $59 million. So we just wanted to get that out there, get into negotiations and see if he would accept. Now, the next player we started to pursue in free agency, it was a defensive end to play opposite to Bud Dupree's name was Tyrone Crawford. Now, see, he's got great size, 6'4", 285, good speed. I thought it'd be someone that would really fit really well on the opposite side, and, you know, maybe at a 77 overall, someone that I could add some depth, but, you know, not break the bank. Again, looking at the start of this draft, we got to see who's there because we're at number 2 and we definitely plan on trading down. So is there a situation where Nick Bosa could still be there? He was one of the top people that we were going to be pursuing in this draft if he's there. But I really liked having this guy here. I offered him a 2-year, $9.5 million deal. And yeah, we just wanted to see if we could get in there and see if he would accept it. And as it turned out, both Crawford and Davis accepted the offers that we extended to them. And that was it for our 2 free agents that we were interested in. It's a young team. Don't want to go crazy in free agency, especially if we're not ready to compete seriously right away. Now, taking a look at this mock draft, of course, it's got me taking Carson Wentz at 2. We know we're not doing that. We know the plan is to trade out all along. So I had to go down. I had to look at some of the players that, or some of the teams, excuse me, that we really felt needed a quarterback. And we decided to reach out to the Rams and try to put together a framework in order to move this pick. I at first really wanted their 1 and 2 this year and their 1 and 2 next year. That ended up being way too much. We could not get them to bite on that. But in order for the Rams to move up from 10 to 2 to select their quarterback, I wasn't sure if it was going to be Goff or if it was going to be Wentz, but we were able to package Brandon Graham, Eagles legend, but sorry, he had to go because we had just signed the free agent. So we were able to package Brandon Graham, our 1, of course, the number 2 overall pick, for their number 10 pick, their number 1 next year and their number 2 next year. So we, did in my opinion, that's a really good haul. We're going to still get a fantastic player this year. And then next year, depending on how we do, we might not be that good. We're going to get a top pick. And then we're going to get their pick, depending on how they do, might not be that good. But either way, we're going to have significant draft capital to move up and get whatever player, maybe 1 or 2 players in the top 10 is the goal, to really make an impact on this team. All right, y'all, and that's going to do it for this video. Make sure y'all keep it locked for the stream when we go live next. This one was a lot longer, obviously, because the stream we did was 7 hours. I'm going to make sure I work to maybe consolidate a little bit better so I don't lose track of time, but keep it locked. Next episode, we're going to be going through our draft. We are going to be drafting some undrafted free agent rookies. We're going to go into training camp, do our rookie drills, and then we're finally going to get to run this progression tool to see what the fate is of some of these new rookies that are, see how they're going to progress. But other than that, guys, it's your boy ShadyMikeGaming. I'll catch y'all next one. I'm signing out. Peace. Threes.